else. And when I saw your post on Instagram, um, that you were sort of going back to this sci-fi project, and I'm like, one, it looks amazing. And I thought, yeah, I'd definitely like to catch up and see where you're getting on with that, because from the trailer that you posted, that I reposted and stuff, yeah, it looks wicked. It looks really really cool.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
so I thought, yeah, I mean that if nothing else would be something really cool to talk about and find out a bit more about, and yeah, what's kind of happening. So if you're happy to talk about that, of course we can, and anything else that you want. I mean, yeah, how basically, yeah, how have you been? I know doing this sort of stuff is you're not doing it for like money, and you're not doing it for like fame and everything else. It's like a passion project sort of thing, isn't it? Like, and sometimes that has to take a back seat sometimes for life and money and everything else.
Mm, yeah.
So yeah, so
Um,
yeah, what's been going on?
I always back when people say it's like a passion project, because a passion project is sort of like one of these things where you've always wanted this and you've put your mortgage on it and stuff like that. So I get a lot of DMs from people saying things like, "Oh, the trailer looks great. It's a hell of a passion project." It's a labor of love as opposed to a passion project, because
Sure.
when you and I first spoke about, was it written 5 years ago? That's shocking
It is shocking, isn't it? Yeah.
in itself. The way time works, the older you get, the way time works is absolutely terrifying, really.
Yeah.
Um, but when I spoke to you then, I was probably in the very early stages of it. But I had just come up with it around that time, so it wasn't like from a teenager. This was my destiny, you know. It's
Yeah.
not like some of those people you see walking up in Dragon's Den,
Mm.
and they've clearly it's a dangerous thing where it is a passion project and they are selling their house. And
Yeah.
so this was an accidental odyssey of madness. It's not a passion project. It
I think
was
that's a
like,
good title.
where can my brain go? Whoops.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more like that. And unfortunately, up until 2 years ago, me and my actor Steve Malloy, wonderful guy, I've worked with him before on BLT, my other film,
Mm.
and we pushed, you know, the work, and then unfortunately it engulfed us,
Sure.
and we both agreed kind of it had to come to an end. By both agree, that's such politician talk. We had a falling out,
Sure. That happens, you know?
you know.
Yeah.
Um, but oh, we used to row a lot on the film because it was only us two.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was like a strange marriage
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a weird way, you know.
Totally.
So I had my wife, but then there's Steve. It's like, what's going on here, you know? But so we would bicker like brothers, the way brothers bicker.
Sure.
Um, but unfortunately, the final bickering was uh, where we both said this isn't working.
Mm.
But what we both worked about, and we can laugh about it now, and what we both worked about, we were experiencing illness. Um, I had a rough 2 years when I wasn't working on this film. I won't go into detail because a lot of that is quite private, but
Sure.
I've had since quite significant health issues, as you would imagine when you're in your 40s, late 40s. And he
Yeah.
too had his problems. And we both sort of worked out that we could no longer focus on each other's well-being, and then the project felt like it was ballooning, and we're getting no feedback from anybody. When you're making a film, it's like a secret walled garden,
Sure.
because you can't go, I'm making this movie, guess what happens at this point, there's an explosion and this happens. You have to just keep it amongst yourself. But the problem is when you're working on it for 4 years, and also it's not we're working on it for 4 years. I hate that narrative. We filmed for 29 days over the course of 4 years.
Yeah.
It's not we're working every day on the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate that narrative, because it always implies, oh, your movie's gotten out of control, it's gone on for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. You've
No,
been
we've gone from
prepared for a
January
month.
to
Yeah.
Christmas. Yeah. um, we did 29 days of shooting over the course of 4 years, but that's a great, in my defense, that's a great way of working, because you get so many great ideas. If you go with how the movie was in your initial stages, it's embarrassing. The movie grows. It's good and bad. It's bad for people. Luckily, I don't have investors, or I'm not, and they're saying, what the hell, 4 years? But it's good because the movie literally evolves in front of your eyes. And then I was able to show Steve our early work, and we're embarrassed by it. We're utterly embarrassed, and we're like, we nearly launched with that. Imagine, you get
Sure. Yeah.
ideas, you have to shift things,
If you had
and
someone that lent you 5 grand, but they're hoping to get it back through however you promise them to get it back, yeah, that would be like, look, we've got to launch it. It's good enough. let's do it. And do you think that's actually the way you've gone around it, just because it was what you had to work with? The fact that it was just two of you. Do you think that that's in some way a kind of like the purest form of filmmaking? That literally you are making the film. You're not like, well, I'm a DOP and a cameraman on this other person's project. You're not just a writer, but someone else's. It's because it's your film. Like every aspect of it is, it's like you are making this film. And if it takes 5 years, it takes 5 years. You're getting it until it's finished. It's not even finished yet, but like to the way you want it to be. Is that filmmaking?
Yeah, it's my way of filming, which
Mm.
I'm going to do a jokey little documentary where how not to make a film. That's the
Sure.
title of it. How not to make a film. It's my way, and whatever that means is it's the difference between sort of like musicians. Everyone can play the guitar, but what you're buying is their interpretation of the guitar, that filtered through them. This is my way of filmmaking. It's wrong, but it's my crazy way. And when it comes out, and if people like it, it's because of the nutty way I done it. It
Sure.
doesn't mean it was the correct way. Of course, it's not the correct way. You can't have an actor on standby for 4 years and expect to still be willing and able. The funny story is the movie died 2 years ago. We both agreed it's finished, and we moved on. That's the mad thing. It generally was dead, and my daughter about 6 weeks ago said, "Do you have a YouTube channel?" She was just inquiring on a Sunday, and I went, "Yeah." So I pulled up YouTube and I showed her some of my work, which I couldn't care about for the last 2 years. And it was on a Sunday, and I'm there going, "This ain't bad."
Mm.
You have weird perspective when you come out of the work. You're no longer going, "This is crap. We got to be better. We got to be better. We got to be better." When you take a break, you go, "Oh, we did already hit those notes. We were already doing these things."
Mm.
Your self-consciousness sort of disappears, and you go, "Damn, this is not that bad at all. I
It's
should be embarrassed by the work. It should have dated. It should have looked crummy. It should." But you get a different perspective.
it's like seeing
And I
an
went,
old
"Oh
photo of
God,
you
how do I
20 years
convince
ago.
Steve to come back?"
Yeah, it's like seeing an old photo of you 20 years ago and you think, oh, at the time I thought I was fat or I was this, that, or whatever. And you look back and go, that actually was all right. You know, what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
like, if only I'd
yeah.
looked like that now
William
kind of thing.
Shatner said,
Yeah. Um, so
"Yeah,
yeah,
it's
some
amazing,
time
isn't it?"
time away from the thing that was causing you so much problems, and you go back and go, we had something, you know?
Well, the key there was I had to convince Steve.
Mm.
So I generally thought there's no way. We've aged, we look different, um, and then the brain started ticking over, and I went, "Okay, is there ways I can bring Steve back despite him looking older? Is there a way of saving what we've done?" And the irony is, because we had pushed so hard 2 years ago, we had done so much work that I'm able to do certain trickery. And it's similar to Paul Walker dying during the Fast and the Furious films.
Yeah.
Steve looks thankfully quite similar, but he has a complete new hairstyle.
Mm.
And that has taken the movie straight to number, I was going to say 11, 10, straight to 10. Because the way the movie works is it's a monologue talking about flashbacks. And we've done all the flashbacks, although they need minor tweaking.
Yeah.
Um, and ironically, I need Steve to look the way he does now. So the mad thing about all of this is it looks like it's all done on purpose.
Sure.
And some of the editing tricks we're employing are also quite fun to make it look like that was always intended. But the mad thing is, I only got some of these ideas that fundamentally fix the plot in the 2-year gap. one of the major problems was I had all these ideas floating in. I couldn't make them work. And then when we had our bust up and we weren't talking to each other, I went, oh my God, I had an epiphany, an idea that fixes the fundamental problem with the film. But the problem was we had both moved on. So
Yeah,
I made a trailer when my daughter said, "Do you have a YouTube?" I went, maybe I can let me see, because we weren't even talking. There wasn't even dialogue. Uh, and you know, you can't make someone see what you're seeing.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I knew deep down he's a creative spirit himself.
Mhm.
And when you're that way, you can't just move on with normal life. You have
Yeah,
to you have. I thought no, he has to come back. So I made that trailer to bring him back. It actually wasn't for the internet to see.
sure.
The trailer was to see if he would come back. And so I sent him the trailer and I sent a message. I said, "Hi Steve, hope you're doing well. Um, I have a way of fixing this film." And I sent him the trailer, and within a day, he emails me back, and then we meet up, and it's as if the bust up never happened, and we're back on board. We've both got perspective now. We've been through the looking glass. We know what it's like if we do bust up again. We know,
Yeah,
oh, was that good? Moving on from the film? No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. We now enjoy what we're doing. We've got perspective. The movie generally is coming to an end in terms of its filming.
yeah.
There's literally about 3 days left,
Wow.
which is wonderful. And we both got, like I said, perspective, priorities. It's ironically better now. I thought we were going to scrape the movie together, and what you would see are sort of scrapings. The movie is far exceeded my expectations completely, and we're both happy to work on it. So, and as you, sorry, I didn't answer your first question, which was this film is called I Am, and I made 3 films. Made. I'm making the third film. So I made a student dumb horror film called Asylum years ago. You can find that if you haven't seen it before. And I made BLT, and I'm making I Am. And BLT is a movie that won some awards and stuff, but I don't like it. I literally don't like it. And the reason I don't like it is I had a hard time on the set with it. I had trouble with a personality that was there.
Mm.
It doesn't take a genius to work that out if I'm working with Steve already. Um, and I felt that movie was very stifling. It didn't feel like how I wanted it to be. It needed more time and not a lot more time and work on it. So I said to Steve with I Am, we're going to go back to Asylum way of filming. Youthful, fun, and no one's saying, you can't do that.
Yeah,
No, 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 you can't go there with that. BLT is quite conservative, very conservative in its way. Oh, follow the rules of filmmaking. Do this, do that. Have the angle like that. Don't overstay welcome. Don't do this. Don't do that. Even though I never had these voices telling me this, because again, I'm a free guy. I don't.
sure. But
But I felt
sometimes you just, yeah, the environment conspires against you and the date and the time and everything else. Yeah. Um, that's interesting because I remember I've seen BLT. I put it on the film dimension in the early days, and I thought it was very good. Um, yeah, it will be interesting to see I Am in its completed form to see the free version of really what you've got in your head. And I think that's why I wanted to speak to you again. And that's why I think the way you're doing it, which you said it's your way of doing it, and it's the only way that you can do it because it's you doing it, is so refreshing and so interesting, I think, for anyone else who wants to do this or is indeed doing this, but just from another perspective, because you can certainly with technology. We'll get on to how you're doing this with phones in a moment, but it's like it just becomes, even like in the indie world, it becomes kind of, this is how you make a film, and it's like this, and it's all very, oh, that's exactly the same set of shots that 50 other films that have come out in the last 5 years have done as well. You know, the same sort of credits, the same sort of artwork, and it's just, it becomes very, very similar, and it's only really like the nuances of the story that's any different. Um, so anything that is different enough to go, yeah, okay. The downside of this is it took us like 5.5 years to make it, but all of that added to the flavor and the end product. You know, I think I think that's only a good thing.
You remember last time I sort of criticized the indie film world because I feel they are doing what you said. It's, you know what I think's happening in the indie film world? I think people have a little bit of money. They've got a clique of people that they can use and call up. They've got the lighting guy, they've got the sound guy, they've got all these people. And what they're doing, they go, I want to see myself as James Bond.
Hmm.
I want to see myself in it. It was a hit last year. We're going to do it. I want to see, our own version of. I mean, take your pick. Whatever did really well in Hollywood.
Hmm.
And what you see is people living out their own fantasies, and so the work comes across as deeply secondhand.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, computer games are basically giving you playable versions of Hollywood films,
Hmm.
but they do enough that they put you in it. First of all, there's the interactivity. You go, oh, I'm playing Indiana Jones.
Hmm.
It may be called Uncharted, but I'm playing Indiana Jones.
Yep.
Um, but then when you make a film on Uncharted, it's this weird. It's never going to work because it was already done as Indiana Jones.
Hmm.
What I find with the film world is they're making bad versions of big blockbuster movies. And it
Yeah.
seems to
Without
be
the
vanity
budget.
projects where they just want to see themselves as said character.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it comes off as porn parodies. There's a dangerous
Yeah.
level where your budget gets you to a point where you either or on my level where your movie looks slightly rough. I say to Steve, we're punk. We're punk. We're not them.
Yeah.
We don't have the goddamn money to be them. So
Yeah.
we're punk. And whatever you like about my stuff is because it is cheap. It is rough around the edges. It's a guy trying his best without any money,
It's
right? And so whatever
when,
techniques you that come around from my filmmaking, sunlight as your key light,
Hmm.
stuff like
Right.
this, harsh shadows. When people go, "Oh, I like the look," well, because the look is
What you had.
necessitated by not having. Yeah, exactly right.
We might have even had this conversation last time. I definitely have raised it a few times. A couple of years ago now, there was a horror film, werewolf film that I saw. I like werewolf films. Can't remember the title of it. I think it was a
Mm-hmm.
British one. But the whole thing was basically they're a series of people on a train, and the train stops in like the middle of the woods, whatever, and each one of the characters kind of gets like taken off one at a time by this like werewolf thing. And the biggest disappointment I had with this film, it was a fairly low budget film. I think it was a couple of £1 million, which yeah, today is like a low budget film. But it's the mistake I think they made is they clearly thought, right, we've got just enough budget left or whatever to do a crappy CGI of a werewolf on the train for too long. You see it for like 10, 15 seconds, but they don't really have the budget to do it. So it doesn't look good. Instead of going, we're never going to show you the werewolf because we can't really afford to do it properly, they're like, no, oh, it will look all right. But it doesn't look right. And it spoils the whole film because it's like your werewolf sucks. Your werewolf looks rubbish because you don't have 30 million pounds to do it properly. So if you don't have 30 million pounds to do it properly, don't attempt to do it in that way. Do it that it's just shadows and pretend you can see it. Like yeah, but don't like and it's the oh we'll make a low budget film or a big budget film. There's like well you can't because it's always gonna I say it's always gonna look like a porn parody. It's always gonna look like you're taking the piss.
But that brings up another um, problem with indie filmmakers where they won't kill the babies. They'll say to themselves, "No, we spent so much on that shot. People are going to like it." It's like, no, it looks like crap. The werewolf literally looks like yeah, but they need to understand how hard we worked to get
Yeah,
that shot.
yeah, yeah,
I can't. I've got endless hours of killing the babies. You know, killing scenes that we worked so bloody hard on, match move scenes. It's like, but is it doing anything for the story? Get it out. I mean, this is how film was traditionally done before.
sure.
You know, you would have hangers with expensive 20-minute rolls of actual 35mm, which is useless now,
Mm.
whether it's bloopers or whether it's entire scenes. Reams and reams of this stuff. I think indie filmmakers are like, no, they're going to love this because we worked so hard on it.
Mm.
I had a scene, Tom, where I spent 430 quid. Now that might be that's going to be laughable. That's out of my own pocket,
Yeah, sure.
and I hired a studio. We did the scene. We spent an entire day, um, and I said, "Jesus Christ, this is boring." And I was faced with the horrible reality after editing it and doing all kinds of tricks to make it work and interesting. And it had to go completely. And it's on the scrap heap. And that cost, in my view, a lot of money. A lot of money.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Especially when you don't have it, you know. So I think a lot of indie filmmakers are just sort of like, no, we paid for that. So they're going to put up with it. There's a lack of quality control. And quality control comes in different forms.
Mhm.
And I learned a harsh lesson years ago when I was working on Asylum. I call it no man's an island, where just because you're there at the editing machine, I'll give you an example. I worked on a sequence back in 2004, and my girlfriend, then wife, was coming home from work, and I spent the entire Saturday on this sequence in the film where my brother plays a character and he's getting chased by a killer. Not Michael Myers. Basically, Asylum's my version of Halloween.
Yeah.
And I devised this sequence. I was really proud of it. And I showed my wife as she came in. I said, "Look at this." And she went, I don't know what's going on. I said, "You what?" "He's got a fire extinguisher. He smashes things and he does this and that leads to that." She
Mm.
went, why is why is this happening at that point? I don't know where he is. I don't. And I went, oh my God, if my wife can't see the journey. And I realized what happened to me. You're there getting tired at the editing machine. You're getting tired.
Yeah.
And just because you understand the sequence of events, you're not making that clear to an audience. And so I learned the value of being, because, indie filmmakers, myself included, we have an ego, right? Just
Sure.
like anybody. Arguably, probably we have quite an ego, right? And we want our work to be recognized. That's what we're doing it for.
Mm.
You said about, you're right, it's not financial gain, but it is for, you want to show people. I actually want something
Recognition.
to watch and enjoy.
Yeah, yeah.
When,
You want people to go, you've done a fucking good job, you know?
yeah, you do in reality. Um, and I learned the value of utilizing a small group of friends and go, look at this. And if they go, sorry, what? You've lost it. And I think there's works, again, I'm not going to call people out individually, but there's works you'll see where they're not understanding certain fundamentals. Like there was one sci-fi where the person needed everybody to understand that the lead character was indecisive, right? Do you know how they did it? They wrote it in the synopsis. Oh, right. Okay.
The
We're watching an indecisive character because it's written in the synopsis, because they failed to depict that,
Yeah,
you know.
it's
And this could be a
again,
number of reasons, time constraints, all kinds of things, you know.
sure. Or sometimes just literally they're like, it's going to be too hard to figure out a better way of doing it. We won't do it. That was one of my big gripes with the last Alien um, film. That
Romulus.
yeah, that to me there was lots of shortcuts and lots of things. Well, hold on, that doesn't quite make sense to what the other thing they were doing, or they're suddenly they're just on the ship and they just are and just go with it, you know. Um, and you get that more and more these days with, in my opinion, like reboots and films that are just long, the second, third, fourth series of a film. They're just kind of like, oh, you know, everyone knows what's going on. We don't need to bother using film to tell a narrative, tell a story. It's just go with it, you know. Um, and yeah, it's a real shame because a bit of thought, a bit of creativity, they probably could come up with a different way of doing it rather than having someone do a monologue of, oh, this character's indecisive and just hope
And
that.
don't get me wrong, I know what it's like. I had I needed to depict I needed to depict loneliness, and my God, that is so hard to do.
Sure.
And what do? Do you have a character knock on the door? Hello, mate. You're lonely, aren't you? You know, it's just so hard to do. So I understand why people take those, as you say, shortcuts. You get it a lot more these days in
Mhm.
films. I think because broadly we live in different times, and the nuance has gone from movies,
Yep.
and even
TikTok and
discourse in general. Nuance has completely gone. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. If it's not explained in 20 seconds, 30 seconds, then it's too long. Um, and yeah, attention spans and everything else, which is uh, it's a
I'm
self.
hoping I'm hoping that my movie. What? Oh, sorry, you cut out there.
Yeah,
Um, I'm hoping that my movie, at least by sort of Generation Alpha, will be described as boring, and then I've won. I'm hoping, because it's I want to sort of go back to that cerebral, um, talky, talky stuff. And don't get me wrong, if you want some fun and thrills, as that, there's going to be some of that in my movie. Um, it's difficult talking about it because I don't want to say things directly to you because it will spoil the film. But as much as, if you look at my old work, my very first film, how nutty and crazy, I've gone right back to that spirit of filmmaking, of craziness, which is harder to do in your 40s, late 40s.
sure. I bet.
But it's fun, and so it's a talky outing, but there will be some fun to be had as well.
So when are you hoping that it's going to be finished and available for people to watch and enjoy?
People like yourself, Tom, hopefully will be able to see it. I'll send you a link when it's in its sort of because it has to do the festival run. I want it to build some kind of gravity.
Yeah, of course.
But people like yourself will be able to see it hopefully next year. Because one of the things I said to Steve when we reunited recently, I said, because I forgot your name, and I went, "Who's that guy that was one of the early supporters of us?" And Steve was like, "Who?" I said, "He did interviews with all these directors and stuff." And it was pure serendipity, honestly, that I followed you on Instagram. It was weird because I didn't seek you out because I'd forgotten what you called
Yeah,
yourself online and all these
yeah.
things. And I went through this couple of weeks of marketing, online marketing, which in itself, I got a slap on the wrist from Instagram. They literally suspended me in
Really?
their infinite ways. Oh, mate, I think I'm still shadow banned. This is the problem with the little guy versus the conglomerates.
Mm.
They claim to be, because I would get emails, right? Congratulations, your movie has hit 1,000 views. Keep going, keep going. And so you keep going. And clearly they didn't like the speed at which my film was growing. And one day I opened the app and I just went white as a sheet, which is quite sad, really. But suddenly I get this message: you are suspended. You've got until May. And if you don't appeal this decision, and I thought, what the hell have I actually done wrong?
Yeah.
I don't discuss politics. I haven't said the wrong things,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know. And it was purely because my movie went to 300 likes in about a couple of weeks. And Steve said to me, he goes, "Oh, they don't like the fact that you've got all this free promotion
Yeah.
and that it's doing well. Because if you follow that logic, if it was getting 300 likes within a couple of weeks, well, by 6 months' time, who knows where it would be?"
Yeah.
So
Sure.
they had to stifle it. So I appealed, and immediately I get an apology, an actual apology, saying, "We got this wrong. Sorry." But I know I'm still shadow banned because it's now stuck at 360 likes. How can something grow in 2 weeks to 300 likes and now nothing? Literally nothing. So obviously it's shadow banned. But that's part of the great story, isn't it? The little guy versus the
Yeah.
conglomerates as well. But it just shows you they're not on our
Absolutely.
side at
No, they're
all.
not. They're not. They're really not. Um, it says my time is running out now because I think it only gives you 45 minutes on Zoom, another corporation. Um, we shall pick this up again a little bit further on when you're sort of near completion of this. And any trailer, any second trailer, do contact me, and obviously I'll post it. I'll post this hopefully soon with the trailer that I've got, because I think it's just going to look really really cool. It's going to be cool, and let's keep talking.
It's frustrating that the trailer that I it's frustrating that the trailer that I made to convince it was solely made to convince Steve to come back, and then I put it out
Sure.
there as a general trailer. It's frustrating and wonderful at the same time that people love it, but it's frustrating for me because the effects and everything in there are quite old, very old,
Sure.
and have already been superseded. These last 3 or 4 weeks working with Steve. By the way, I got that lurgy that you had.